their team. And, you know, a lot of people are saying it's unfair. The NFL should have pushed it back. And my takeaway is no. No, Jeff Driscoll, a quarterback for the Broncos, had tested positive. And then later in the week, players around him for Denver, quarterbacks for Denver, did not wear a mask around him. That's on Denver. That's not on the NFL to babysit. The NFL is not being subtle here. It's a cutthroat league. It always has been. They'll cut you. Tom Brady could be cut tomorrow. You got to know the company you go work for. You got to know their business sensibility. This is not the NBA. It's not what it is. It's not baseball, 10-year contracts. It's not international soccer. Stars sometimes don't pay taxes. They're dramatic. They date supermodel. NFL's hard. They're cutthroat. Bottom line, the Shield wins. Shield's more important than almost all the players. And the reality is they've been fining people and taking away draft picks. They've never been subtle about this. Here's the rules. Follow them. We'll give you weekly reminders. And if you don't play. And so, Denver, we're going to make an example of you. I got no problem with it. By the way, the Baltimore Ravens, they're to blame for this mess. I feel bad, but they had a strength and conditioning coach. I know his name. I won't say it. Who was a non-masker. Spread it throughout the team. Who pays the price? The Steelers, who didn't get a game check. Follow the rules. The well-run organizations in this league. Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Rams, Seattle, Green Bay. They're not having outbreaks. Be well run. Be responsible. This is not on the NFL. You know, at some point, the NFL's the parent and the players are the kids. And the NFL's like, okay, here's the ground rules. Here's the curfew. And by the way, I feel bad. I mean, do we treat COVID like an injury? I mean, I know people that have gotten it, and they're responsible people. I'm not pointing this and that. But the Baltimore situation and the Denver situation, those are on the teams and the players. And again, people are picking it. At the grocery store I go to, I don't go as much as I used to, everybody wears masks. And I'm looking at studies where they say even wearing masks, the grocery store is like ground zero. People get it. So I'm not saying just irresponsible people get COVID. We're flying on planes. You hope you don't get it. But these two situations, teams have to own up to it. The NFL's not been subtle. They have not been the permissive parent. Fines, draft picks. You know, the Saints got caught in their locker room after the game, having a party, videotaping it, not wearing masks. Got fined. It's on you. The league told you they didn't want it. Got to follow directions. All right, so I don't talk boxing much on this show, but I watched the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. fight. Yeah, I did. It was $50, whatever.
I watched it also.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. So I don't care if you agree with this or not, but Mike Tyson's 54. Prove me wrong. I think he could, if given the opportunity, be heavyweight champ of the world still. I saw George Foreman do it. He was in worse shape than Tyson. And George Foreman didn't hit any harder than Mike Tyson. And the heavyweight division was better when Foreman was around than it is now. Can you name 3 heavyweights? Mike Tyson was clearly instructed against Roy Jones Jr., don't hit above the shoulders. He could have ended that thing 4 punches in. Roy Jones Jr., the only reason, he even admitted after the fight, I'm sore. He was exhausted. Mike Tyson was told, don't go too high. So Tyson basically worked the body. Tyson could have ended this thing anytime he wanted to. And you call me crazy, this was an orchestrated, planned event. It was in Los Angeles. They weren't going to allow knockdowns, whatever that means. But they always tell you in boxing, this was not a draw. It was ruled a draw. It was not a draw. One guy was in shape. One guy had good movement. One guy still has power. In boxing, they always tell you, the last thing to go is power. You lose your legs. You lose your mobility. You lose your interest. Mike Tyson, I watched him and I thought, he's in great shape. If you gave Mike Tyson another 6 months and fought Tyson Fury, put him in there. And you know what? I'd watch. Because here's the thing. It's not the NHL or baseball or the NBA and the NFL. You got standings. When it comes to boxing, it's an event. And Mike Tyson, I like his events. And I sat there and I spent $49.99. And I'm sitting out there because I had to work the next morning, and I'm like, can we get to it? I know the musical acts are great. Love Snoop. Can we get to the fight? My wife kept saying, if they fought yet? And I'm like, no, this is what they do. You pay $50, and they make you sit through a bunch of stuff because they want more people to sign up, and everybody got rich. But I'm sitting watching that, and at the end, I'm like, I don't feel guilty. I enjoyed it. And Tyson, given fair opportunities, I think could fight anybody in the world right now. Roy Jones Jr., he just took a paycheck. But Tyson, I'm like, prove me wrong. Put him in the ring. Tyson said he's going to fight again. I don't want any stipulations, no qualifiers. I don't want it orchestrated. I don't want it planned. Let's see him fight. Because I saw Foreman do it, and he wasn't nearly as nimble as Tyson, and I don't think he had the power that Mike Tyson still possesses. Colin right, Colin wrong on a Monday. Next. I should have seen this. Yeah, of course. Tua's going to struggle against him, and Herbert's going to struggle against him, and Kyler's going to struggle against him. What does a great coach, maybe you face Belichick, what does Bill do specifically that makes it, that because everybody could copy what New England's doing, what does he do that makes even Kyler Murray struggle, young guys struggle?
It's almost like Andy Reid. I think in the National Football League, you have coaches who are good coaches, and then you have coaches who are great coaches. And, Andy Reid is a great offensive mind. And when I think of some of the great defensive minds in the NFL, I instantly think about Mike Tomlin. I think about Bill Belichick. Why? Because they don't change. They believe in their scheme, and then, they don't have to have players out there who are marquee players, Pro Bowl players who just play hard and play within the system, and they get guys to buy in. And the one thing to buying into a system is you got to like what you're doing. Players got to go home and say, "Oh, this scheme is amazing. We're gonna win with this scheme. I like it. We're gonna have opportunities. We're gonna create turnovers," and it becomes a reality. And when it does, it makes it easier to go out and play for a coach like Bill Belichick. But it all starts with the scheme. He's one of the greatest defensive minds the game has ever seen.
What am I to make of Cleveland? They're 8-3. They clearly have taken the ball mostly out of Baker Mayfield's hands. I do think they got the right coach, Kevin Stefanski. There's no noise. There's no chatter. There's no cockiness. But you look at them and you're like, I know they're 8-3. I don't like them again. I look at them and I'm like, I wouldn't like them against any of the good teams. What do you make of Cleveland?
I'll say this, Colin. Everything that I accomplished in my career, and the way I had to do it, the way it had to happen, especially early on when I was in Atlanta, I would trade it all for the way the Cleveland Browns are playing right now. Running the football and defense. Baker Mayfield's job is so easy right now. We always talk about managing the game. This is a true scenario of a guy just managing the game and doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And, as he do it, they continue to win. He don't turn the ball over. He don't have to worry about distributing the ball and putting the ball in this person's hands or this person getting their touches. Baker Mayfield can just be Baker Mayfield. And credit to the Cleveland Browns organization for building this type of environment around him because it made their guy successful who's under the spotlight and under a lot of scrutiny. And it's made their team better. Now they sit at 8-3, and it's something to be proud about.
Did you ever have a year like that where you felt it was an easier year?
No. I can't think of a year where I came out of it like, man, the defense before. I take no credit away from the defenses I played with. I love every single teammate that I had. But it's never been a season where I was like, oh, the defense carried us that year. Not at all.
At least you're honest. I appreciate that.
I'm an honest man.
All right. Great seeing you, buddy. Mike Vick.
All right. Appreciate it.
Brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Coming up next, Denver people are